And I'm going to go to the line producer and go live. And I think we're live. So this is the live reading of my play, The Weatherman. And what I'd like the performers to do is, in the order that I listed them in the email, go through, identify yourself and the part you play. I think we have redundant display, but it's a good way to start.
Does that mean I'm first?
Start with you, Glenn. You're at the top.
I'm Glenn Sterner Tate, and I'm playing Michael Harrington.
I'm Frank Skinzillo, and I'm playing attorney William Evans.
I'm Debbie Barrett, and I'm playing Samantha Evans.
I'm Karen McPherson. I'm playing Judge Cannon.
I'm Kathy Odie. I'm playing Angela Koenig.
I'm Jen Moore, and I'm playing Freedom Wilson.
I'm Michael Knight. I'm playing Aristotle Wilson.
I'm Mike
Bob
Witter.
Moore, and I'll be Barry Wilson.
I'm Mike Witter playing Jim Owens.
I'm Seamus Sarton playing Bailiff / Julius the Guard.
I'm Denise Marois Wolf, and I'm playing the waitress.
And without further ado, let's begin.
Good evening. I'm your narrative for tonight's play. I'm also the main character, Michael Harrington, former member of the Weather Underguard, which came to be called Weatherman. Little context, way back in the 60s, we were at war in Southeast Asia, the Vietnam War. Ultimately, over 9 million military personnel served there. There was conscription for the Vietnam War, and it was taking more minorities than was fair. So President Richard Nixon, set up a lottery, a bingo game to draft young men based on their birthdays. So they began pulling numbered ping pong balls. The first birthdays pulled were the first drafted. 365 possibilities, and my birthday was bingo ball number 7.
Your country called you, and it was your duty to go, just like it did World War II in Korea. Excuse me, I'm Jim Owens. I knew the coward in high school, and tonight I'm going to make his life difficult.
Back then, the Army was part volunteer, part draft. Jim volunteered, as most of the men who went, but by 1968, there weren't enough Jims anymore.
Most of us were enlisted, but as the home front turned against the war and us, the volunteering dwindled.
So by 1968, those of us who didn't want to go opted for protest. And then some of us opted for violent protests. We didn't have much experience. We weren't trained on using weapons or explosives, and we were more attitude than real. We called ourselves the Weathermen, our name taken from a Bob Dylan song. What we became known for...
You disrupted schools, you rioted, you made bombs and robbed banks. You may have started as protesters, you ended as criminals.
We bombed political targets, and some of us died from our ineptitude. The bank job, that was how we paid the bills. Remember, there wasn't an internet then. Otherwise, we'd have tried all those great jobs working from home.
So tell the people why you went underground.
I was the driver in a bank robbery in Pittsfield, Mass, where a bank guard was killed. I didn't carry a gun, but I was charged with complete conspiracy to murder, and that is when I went in hiding. I went underground for 40 years. I'm in Pittsfield today, where my family lived, because my niece, Samantha Chase, got a message to me that my mother is dying. My plan is to see her and get back to where I belong.
Do we wait to be seated?
Let's just pick a table.
No. All right, let's just sit.
See menu? I wonder if this place is self-serve. Hello?
You have to turn on your mic. You're muted.
Sorry, I got caught up in some baby pictures my friend sent. Get started with something to drink?
Just water, thanks.
You always do this. You come into a restaurant and order water. These people have to make a living. Can I get a Sprite? How about an iced tea?
Sure. I'll come back for your orders in a minute.
It's 3:30. He asked us to be here at 3:30.
Well, he's the right age. My
Hey.
watch says 3:27.
I think that's him.
Well, he's the right age. My watch says 3:27, and the clock on the wall agrees.
Here are your drinks. Ready to order?
We need a couple more minutes. Ugh, this is not good. Can you catch her? Just get me a Diet Coke.
With lemon, I know. Want some of mine?
Uncle Mike?
Samantha? Wow. Last time I saw you, hello. I thought we agreed you'd come over.
We did. Let me introduce you, my husband, William Chase. This is my uncle, Michael Harrington. William used to be with the DA. He's now an attorney in private practice.
Hi, William. Oh, an attorney?
Pleased to meet you. Please don't be angry with her. I talked her into bringing me. You're with the Weather Underground?
Not much for small talk, are you? Yes, I was in Weatherman. Sam, you told me my mother is dying. Is that not true?
Unfortunately, it's true. Last fall, they found a tumor on her liver, and chemo slowed it down. It was really hard on her. 2 weeks ago, they found more in her lungs and her colon. The doctor said she's got 6 months at best. She's 92, and there's some dementia, so she doesn't understand. Last week, she asked where you were.
Oh, Mom. The hardest part of going underground was the impact on her. I wanted to call her so many times. So, she's comfortable?
Yes, she is.
How's Grandpa?
He passed away in 1992. He didn't talk about you much.
Yeah, he disowned me when I joined Weatherman. Called me a coward for dodging the draft. I believe his exact words were, "Damn coward." So, not that it's not nice to meet a new relative, but what are you here for?
I was hoping, since you were going to see Grandma and risk being caught, that maybe I could persuade you to just surrender. Rejoin society and your family. William could help.
Please, just hear us out. Thanks to a friend, I was able to read your file. Everything in it dates back to 1976. You seem to have behaved yourself since then.
I avoided attention. So we're clear? I am not here to surrender, remember? Understood?
Ready to order?
Sure. A grilled cheese for me.
I'll take the veggie burger. Uncle Mike?
Sorry, I can't read your menu. What's the soup of the day?
Chicken noodle. But between you and me, it's just from a can.
Oh, thanks for the heads up. I'm kind of on a diet and they encourage having soup. Caesar salad. Oh, with the grilled chicken. Are those fries homemade? And fries.
I have to try that diet. Okay, I'll put these in.
So I'm way behind on family news. How did you guys meet?
In an American history class at Amherst College.
American radical history. It covered the rise of the American Communist Party, the Black Panthers, SDS, and Weatherman. In a way, you brought us together.
You were my mystery uncle, and I thought I'd learn what I could about you. As to family, I haven't kept up with all of them myself. Uncle Joe died in '93, and Aunt Audrey moved to Florida. Mike moved to Georgia years ago, and I think he works for Citibank down there. We haven't had a real family gathering for a long time.
So, Sam, what do you do for a living?
Well, I'm a civil engineer. I work freelance, usually exciting work like designing culverts to redirect groundwater. But a month ago, I completed preliminary plans for a bridge. That was interesting. And it will take about 2 years to build, so I'll be busy.
Oh, that's great. You know, for the life of me, I don't remember what my career plans were after college. I was taking a lot of history courses. I'd probably have ended up teaching in high school. So, what's in my file? I've never seen it.
Here's your rap sheet. You have 7 outstanding warrants for rioting and obstruction of justice issued at various places, mostly in 1974. Those would likely be dismissed by a judge. But then there's the bad one.
Yeah, the bad one.
What bad one? You said he only had misdemeanors.
No, I said he had mostly misdemeanors. Problem with these damn cell phones, the connection can be awful.
Was this about the bomb? My mother told me about it. You robbed a hardware store for parts, but the bomb never got used.
I took some electrical tape and stuff, and I wasn't caught. No, this did not involve the bomb. I was part of a bank robbery.
Bank robbery? Mom didn't tell me anything about that. So you're charged with bank robbery?
Not anymore. There's a statute of limitations we're well past. When was that?
1975. May 3rd, 1975.
Well, did you take money?
I was the driver. I never set foot in the bank.
Well, how much did you get?
We got 10,000. We'd hoped for more.
Did anyone die in the robbery?
Yes, a bank guard, John Koenig, shot dead.
Did you shoot him?
Hell no. Someone was trigger happy.
Did the guard try to stop you? Did he shoot at you?
It all happened inside the bank. I didn't even see it happen. I heard the gunfire, but I didn't hear any come my way. I was the driver. I stayed in the car. I didn't see anything. I used to remember it more clearly. I heard 15 shots. Most were very fast, and there might have been, there was an echo. I actually parked in the parking lot. I should have kept the car idling at the entrance. I didn't even think to have the car turned around for a fast escape. Not much of a driver, but we did escape, sort of. It's been a long time since I've tried to remember it.
So 15 shots, one armed guard, no handgun at the time, had a 15 count magazine. So both sides did some shooting.
Yes. 2 guys went in, they had revolvers. And when they came out, one, Jim Watt, was reloading. He was congratulating Joe Murawski on dropping the thing. So I knew something had happened. So conspiracy to murder, which never runs out.
Oh, God. Murder.
Yeah. Ironically, so many of us vowed we would never go to war and kill in our country's name. About your mom, Sam, I'm sorry I missed her funeral. I only found out a month ago that she died. What did she die of?
It's been what, 5 years? She had a heart attack when she was gardening. No history. By the time the ambulance got to the hospital, she was gone.
She and Grandma did love to garden. I never picked it up.
She would have liked to see you one more time. So the robbery, did you have a gun?
No, I would never touch a gun. I just drove the car. I was never a great fit with Weatherman. I was cool with the political stuff, demonstrations and sit-ins. They were declared, then we declared war on the cops. I wasn't great at waging war on cops, and I got pretty viciously criticized for it.
Viciously criticized?
After any action, we had criticism sessions to get rid of our middle-class mentality. It was part of becoming good socialists. You had to pull that white middle-class mentality out by the root. And we were all white middle class. First, you criticize yourself in front of everyone. I didn't help deface the statue. I should have burned the flag. I should have spit on the cop. If they thought you went easy on yourself, and they usually did, then they started it. If you showed any respect for law and order or property or pretty much any house of worship, you were a pig.
As I recall, Weatherman wanted to end all wars of imperialism and overthrow the government, but didn't all the protests fade away when we pulled out of Vietnam and stopped the draft?
That did quiet down the demonstrators, but we weren't just avoiding the infantry. After Vietnam ended, we kept going. We broke Timothy Leary out of prison. We sent a lot of kids to Cuba to help the Cubans with their sugar harvest. Important lesson. College kids do not make good field hands. We even joined at one point with some of the Black Panthers, the May 19th coalition. Turns out Mao Zedong and Malcolm X shared a birthday.
So you were supposed to be socialists.
It's supposed to be.
So what have you been doing all these years to survive?
On, I worked in restaurants and landscaping companies. It's cash under the table, but there's no such thing as a sick day. When I turned 40, I got a new social security number, a fake ID in the name of Max Gunderson, and took some programming courses and got a job with Fidelity.
So after we visit with your mother, would you consider surrendering? I'd be honored to represent you. I know a lot of people in the court system.
Tell you what, if I get caught at the Pittsfield Police Department, you're my lawyer. I can't afford anyone else. But I'm not here to surrender. I'm here to visit my mother and then leave.
Anybody need a refill or anything? No? Enjoy.
Ask the ketchup.
Okay. Just to update you, Grandma sold the house 5 years ago. It was too much for her. She's in an assisted living place a few miles away. Elderwood, it's called.
Elderwood? Sounds like it's from Lord of the Rings. Can we see her today?
Sure. I thought after we've eaten, you could follow us over. And then it's kind of up to you.
If you don't mind, I'll accept a ride. I don't own a car.
Oh, too easy to track, huh?
No, it's the expense. I don't dare file for Social Security, so I have just my savings. I've wondered of late if anyone is still even looking for me, but I really don't want to gamble and lose.
I guess you didn't get to keep any of the $10,000.
Not a dime.
Well, welcome back. Are we finished here? Okay, this one's on us. Let's go see Grandma.
That ends the scene. Next scene, single spot, back on the weatherman.
Long story short, my mother no longer recognized me. Though she did say I looked like her son. I wanted to stay longer, but she fell asleep and I was sadder than I remember ever being. I'd stayed away too long. In the hallway, I ran into literally Jim Owens.
Yep. I was retired from the town police force, director of security at the hospital. Michael and I knew each other from high school, where I lettered in football and baseball.
Asshole. I thought I might have changed in 40 years. Modest weight gain, hair retreated, but darn if he didn't recognize. Called his friend, the Pittsfield police, and I made a run for it.
But at 70, we don't run like we used to.
We don't. One officer responded, and as they say, gave chase. I was getting a lead on Jim, but the policeman was younger and faster, so he caught me. I was arrested, handcuffed. I then made the mistake of giving them my alias, my Minnesota driver's license in the name Max Gunderson. They called me Max until my fingerprints came back and they learned I was Michael Harrington and that I had charges pending from the 70s. And I got charged with providing a false ID. Old habits die hard. This is the Pittsfield court, and I'm about to face Judge Mary Cannon, known as Judge Max, for the severity of her sentences.
Open seat in court.
All rise. You may be seated. Judge Cannon, we have the people versus Michael Harrington on one charge of providing a false ID and one count of conspiracy to commit murder.
I did get them to drop the civil unrest charge.
Well, it's a start.
Good morning, Mr. Chase. This is your client. I see that the conspiracy charge was brought in 1976, and there is no statute of limitations. And at the time, you were a member of the Weather Underground. Interesting. What brings you to our fair city today, Mr. Harrington?
I grew up here. My mother is dying. I came back to see her.
Oh, so you're a local. I'm sorry to hear about your mother. Since this court has jurisdiction, I'm going to proceed with the usual business. Mr. Chase, how does your client plead to providing a false ID?
My client pleads not guilty.
And to conspiracy to murder?
Not guilty.
So noted. Now, as to bail, I clearly cannot grant bail as your client has been a 40-year flight risk. What I will do for you is keep you nearby. I think our local jail is reasonably comfortable as jails go.
Your Honor, it's only a holding cell. We send them to county to await trial.
I'm aware of our usual procedure, bailiff, and that the county jail is currently at 175% capacity. Inmates are sleeping in the hallways. In my opinion, not a safe environment for a senior citizen. We have a criminal of another sort here. Please direct Sheriff Thompson to install a cot in the holding cell for Mr. Harrington. I prefer to keep him nearby. As for court dates, can the attorneys agree on 2 weeks from today, May 19th? After 40 years, I see no reason to drag this out longer than necessary.
2 weeks? Your Honor, I don't think we can prepare a defense in 2 weeks.
Attorney Chase, advise your client that he doesn't have a speaking role here unless I address him. Understood? Good. It is not your job to prepare a defense. That's what Attorney Chase is for. Attorneys, are we in accord? Excellent. See you all in 2 weeks.
All right.
Scene ends. Open on holding cell.
I'll see what I can scrounge out by way of a cot. Just FYI, we got a camera up in there just in case you try digging out.
I should have laid maybe hung out with
The door locked, the window for way out.
No, they would have gone to question her. You always said keep family out of it. Shit, I'm not going to prison. I absolutely am not going to prison. There's no way I'm going to prison.
This is getting ridiculous. Why can't we just pay a fine? You know we're going to do it again.
That's a good call, not mine. Okay, Mike, we got company. Two of my regulars.
Hello. What are you in for?
Smoking marijuana in public.
Selling marijuana without a town-approved license. We're cousins. What are you in for?
Giving a false ID and conspiracy to commit murder.
This sounds like Alice's Restaurant, the dark version. So who did you murder?
I didn't murder anyone.
Oh, all right, we're all innocent here. Who did you allegedly conspire to murder?
A bank guard.
I haven't heard anything in the news.
1976.
1976. So you used to rob banks. Since then, have you robbed other banks?
No, just the one.
Oh. Career went in another direction?
I was in Weather Underground. We needed the money for bail bonds and other shit.
Seriously? You're a weatherman? Sorry to hear that. Today just got so much cooler. God, I miss the 60s. Hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today? 10 soldiers and Nixon's coming. We're finally on our own. This summer I heard the drilling for dead in Ohio. And it's 1, 2, 3. What are we looking for? Great music.
Yeah, levitating the Pentagon or trying to.
Flowers and rifle barrels, LSD. Hate Ashbury. I was meant to get out there. Damn, I miss those days. Sister Weather underground. Most of the kids who went underground surrendered years ago. Did you just surrender too?
No, I got caught. My niece sent me a message that my mother was not doing well. I decided to risk seeing her. The hospital guard recognized me from high school, and here I am. I'm Michael Harrington.
Ari Wilson.
Harry Wilson, his cousin. Bernard is my full name. His full name is Aristotle.
Must you always make me a Greek philosopher?
Your mother was just trying to motivate you with a lofty name.
And our last name got shortened at Ellis Island. It was originally Wasinovich. So, conspiracy to murder?
Yep, felony with no statute of limitations. Might as well still be 1976.
You were in the Weather Underground. You guys were the point of the spear of the anti-war movement. What kinds of crazy stuff did you do?
Oh, not much. There was a brick or two, lit up some flags, a lot of demonstrations. I ruined a lot of draft records here and in Ottumwa, Iowa, and in Buffalo, and in Detroit, we set them on fire. And I helped get parts for a bomb.
Okay, potheads, your bill's been paid again by your sister. Come this way.
Blackout. Change of clothes to indicate another day in the cell.
We're back.
Smoking weed in public again. 11:45. You boys are running late. Guns will have you dragged down into criminal class.
Hi, I'm Freedom Wilson. Please call me Frida. So you're the weatherman my brother won't stop talking about.
Hello, Frida. Michael Harrington. Freedom? Child of the 60s.
Yeah, my baby sister missed out. She's just Susan.
And whose sister are you?
That would be me. Not keeping up with a family tradition. My grandfather was a bootlegger.
Oh, here I saved my cornbread for you.
Ooh, still warm. Thanks. Hey, Julius, I need some decaf for Dunkin'. Julius, guard.
What kept you? It's almost noon by that clock. They took my watch.
Well, they can't have a possible suicide by watch band. Man, I just lit up, got off one good hit, hardly even smoking, complete waste of a good joint, which they confiscated, and it's technically legal. Justice will emerge.
I used to believe that.
You need a joint more than anyone I know. It's getting better. Pot is being legalized. Who would have believed that just 10 years ago? And gay marriage? And perhaps because the Caucasian is no longer the dominant race in this country.
That's not true. You've been reading Breitbart again. I keep telling you, it's a Nazi news site.
I read everything. Huffington, Al Jazeera, Drudge, Politicos, everything. You should too. You can't really believe anyone.
Hey, Mike, you have visitors. One of them a lawyer. I forget which one.
I'm his counsel. Don't you have a private area for us to meet and discuss this case?
I'm really sorry, but we don't usually have people in here more than a couple hours. I guess the judge didn't remember that we don't have visitors' rooms.
It's okay. These people are friendly.
You're muted. You're still muted.
Samantha's muted.
How are you doing, Uncle Mike?
It's okay. Hi, Sam. Ari, Barry, Frida. This is my niece, Samantha Chase. Her husband, William, is my attorney. I'm doing okay, honey. As jails go, this is pretty bearable.
Need anything, just yell.
This is a little irregular. Folks, I'm just talking to my client. This may sound rude, but since we don't have a private office, could you possibly just be quiet and pretend we're not here?
We'll be on our best behavior.
Thank you. So, Mike, the other weatherman, the one who did kill the guard.
Joe Moravsky?
Joe Moravsky. The prosecution has requested his presence at the trial, and they're shipping him in. I think he's the only living witness to you being at the bank robbery, so that's his purpose. The good news is we get to cross-examine him.
Wow. Joe Moravsky. It's been a long time.
Was he a friend of yours?
No. I'd never met him before the bank job was organized, and we all scattered afterwards. He'd been in the military and had a gun. He wasn't the friendliest guy I ever met, but I'll never forget him. Kind of cold-blooded. Most of the guys were more idealist than realist. Joe was hardcore realist. I don't think he really believed in the socialist bit. I think he just wanted to rob a bank.
I have a couple of questions for you. Did you resist being part of the robbery?
Resist? I was terrified because they were using guns.
That's not what I asked.
Did you try to run? Did you try to prevent the robbery?
No, I didn't try to run. I thought of trying to stop it, but I kind of volunteered.
You volunteered?
It's complicated. I was on thin ice because I wasn't very good at being a weatherman. At the last moment, when we pulled up to the bank, I thought of running to a cop and trying to stop it before it started, but I didn't see any cops. So I did nothing. I didn't resist. I didn't say anything.
Would Joe Morosky know you volunteered?
He wasn't in the room at the time, so maybe not.
Will he remember you were reluctant?
Hopefully. He called me Chicken Man on the trip out. We split up and came back on our own.
Who got to carry the money?
Joe did. He actually planned it, if you can call walking in and shooting and shouting a plan. So when he held on to it, nobody argued.
That may help. Next, we need to discuss whether or not you take the stand.
I'd like to. In fact, I insist.
In favor of that, you're not scary looking or sounding, so you'll present as a mild-mannered senior citizen. Of course, the downside is the prosecution also gets to question.
What would you ask him if you were prosecuting?
That's just it. Their job is simple. I'd have one question: were you at the robbery? Once they establish that he's convicted, your belief that you weren't suited to be a weatherman, that's ephemeral. Let's hope the prosecutor doesn't find out about you volunteering.
Like I said, it's complicated.
Emphasize your reluctance. You may well look a little foolish as a result, but even that works better for you. So, you want to be questioned?
Yes, I do. There aren't many people still alive to defend me, and nobody knows the whole story better than me. It was such a different time. Should we prepare questions and answers?
I'd prefer not to have rehearsed answers. For one thing, you might get stage fright and forget your lines, and there is a risk of you getting distracted.
Distracted by what?
You're not a young man, Michael, and this trial is stirring up a lot of memories. We do not want to put the war on trial, but if the state comes at you with some question about Vietnam or the draft, you could easily get pulled into old arguments that can't be won, like why did you avoid induction? Not many draft dodgers came home after the amnesty, but the ones that did got even less of a welcome than the vets. I also think you'll do better with a little spontaneity. Now remember, a short answer to a question is best. If they ask an open-ended question, try to narrow it. How did you feel about Vietnam, for example? You can ask them to clarify. I'll object if they get too nosy, but ultimately it's up to the judge which questions are allowed. Now, you have one last choice to make, and it's a biggie. You can do a jury trial or a bench trial. Bench means we just plead before the judge. A jury trial will take longer. They have to assemble one, and there is a whole other level of complications with a jury, and of course, after both sides are presented, you wait. Dealing with the judge can streamline the decision, which works if we think you've got a simple case.
Is this a simple case?
Not in my opinion, but I still think you're better off with the judge.
Uncle Mike, from what I've been reading and hearing around town, I don't know how favorable a jury trial would be for you. The vets have been talking a lot, getting media coverage, and people don't sound very sympathetic to you. They're calling you an old terrorist who is finally having to face justice. They're organizing a demonstration in front of the courthouse when your trial starts.
I've been helping out here, mostly sweeping, because being in jail is very boring. I overheard that Judge Cannon hands out stiff sentences, and she lost her brother in Vietnam. Could we possibly get a different judge?
If Judge Cannon is biased, she should recuse herself, but she hasn't. If you're found guilty, we can appeal on that basis.
Found guilty. That's scary. Terrifying. So it's either the rock or the hard place.
Folks, if you could excuse the interruption, I have a suggestion.
What's up, Ari?
I know you don't have great choices, but we've been whispering amongst ourselves, and we suggest you go with the bench trial. Judge Cannon's tough on sentencing, but she's got a good reputation for fairness. And the fact that you're here and not getting beaten up in the shower in a county jail means she's not insensitive to the situation.
Okay. I guess we'll go with the bench trial.
I just remembered. I made brownies yesterday. For some reason, I remember you liking them.
I love them. Thanks.
They're enough to share?
I'll bring you brownies tomorrow. Your own special blend.
Are we done here? Ari, are we done here?
All my questions are answered.
I'll be there in court
To say goodbye?
to bring you home.
We have a chance to win, Uncle Mike. I'm going to give it my best shot.
The lawyers leave. So, they come in tomorrow. Anything we can do?
Yeah. Can you keep a secret? You've probably heard I've been helping out, sweeping, tossing junk mail. They've been pretty nice to me. Well, I managed to grab this last night. It was in Julius' desk. He left the drawer open. I wasn't snooping. He hasn't noticed it missing yet. I tested it. It opens this cell and no alarms went off.
Don't, please don't.
I'm facing a possible 10 years plus in prison. I've sacrificed a normal life to avoid ending up in prison.
I know you're worried, but escaping? They'll catch you and you'll definitely go to prison.
So you can open the door. What's your next move?
That is the only camera. I can see the desk monitor while I'm sweeping, and that camera isn't working. I heard them say it's been out for a month. They don't have much of a budget for repairs. They also talk way too much, and they're not used to, to extended guests. Anyway, there's a shift change at 8. Julius goes home, and Eddie mans the desk until midnight. Eddie's pretty reliably eats a snack at 10, usually a burrito, and 10 minutes later hits the ladies. Pretty much like clockwork. That's my chance. I get out the door, I can run like a rabbit.
Oh my God, you're serious.
I wish you hadn't told us, Mike. Now we're accessories if you actually try to pull it off.
Sorry, Barry, I didn't think of that.
Realistically, Mike, you didn't murder for drug money. You behaved yourself for 40 years. You're not a career criminal, more of a career hider. Even if you're found guilty, I doubt you'll get the maximum sentence. On the other hand, if you run and get caught, then they can't help but give you some serious years.
You know, I've lived off the grid, avoided arrest for 40 years. I'm not just a novice. None of you think I can escape this cell? Have people tried before and been caught?
Nobody stays here long before you. I think we had the longest stretch here, and it was 3 hours.
I'm sorry, Mike. I truly believe this is for the best.
Hey, Mike, do you have something that belongs to me?
Sorry, Julius. I hope you understand. I'm just scared shitless.
I get you. Just don't tell the chief. You have my Swiss Army knife. I can't seem to find that either. No? Well, even if you took it anyway, don't have enough time to tunnel out. Incidentally, Mike, good luck tomorrow.
Thanks. Guess I'll be moving into smaller quarters soon. I hope I don't get doubled with some guy who wants me for his girlfriend.
I think you're a bit old. I'm sorry, Mike.
Really think you'll get convicted? It happened so long ago.
That doesn't matter. He took a life.
It didn't.
Right. conspiracy. So what the hell happened all those years ago?
This all started when we were going after draft records in Lowell. They were in an old mill building. I was teamed with a guy who insisted I call him K. Though he was as white as me, real name was probably Brendan or Josh. He was hardcore weatherman. He wanted to plant TNT and blow the whole building sky high, not just ruin the records, but make a statement. And I argued we sneak in and dump paint in the files. Very functional, easy on property damage. I'd gone in for a look and they just had a few fire extinguishers, so an explosion would have destroyed the building. Kay accused me of being a romantic, which I was and am.
So how'd you work it out?
Well, I was the driver because I had a car, a 65 Rambler. That was a good car, America's answer to the Volkswagen. One time I had to get from Joplin, Missouri to Chicago in 5 hours. That car went through a snowstorm, never skidded, most comfortable seats.
Is this about the draft records or is this a car story now?
Sorry. So I was staying near the university. Kay was with his girlfriend across town, and I told him to be ready Wednesday night. I'd pick him up at midnight. His idea. Place closed at 4:30, so I went to the draft board at 11 with 3 cans of black paint, which was heavy as hell to carry. And I broke in with a credit card, and I pried open the file drawers with a screwdriver, and I poured black paint on all those files. Got a fair amount on myself to boot. Funny, I wasn't wearing gloves. We never worried about fingerprints. I left lots of evidence. Finished at 11:30. Got home, phone off the hook. Kay comes over the next morning. I tell him I did the job without him. He was mad. He screamed, "Fuck you," 70 times and punched a hole in my wall. Man, they criticized the hell out of me on that one. And I didn't have a leg to stand on. That was when I really knew I was in the wrong club.
The spring of '72. No, I finally know. I was expecting my letter from Uncle Sam and living in terror of the mailman. That letter never came. I think you ruined my file.
You're welcome.
So what happened to Kay?
Not sure. He was trouble. He'd done time before he joined. He got arrested for beating up his girlfriend and then got in more trouble in jail. He joined Weatherman for what he called the fun stuff, blowing up things and casual sex. He also had a criticism session after Lowell. He lasted 30 seconds, called us assholes and left. Never saw him again.
Interesting. So what's the importance of Lowell?
Well, after I got reamed out, they were discussing expelling me. I still wanted to prove it. So when they announced they needed a driver on a bank robbery, I raised my hand. I had a car. Then they mentioned they'd be carrying guns, and I freaked.
Is that not standard procedure for a bank robbery, Mike?
I guess so. Then they talked for hours about guns and Marx and the proletariat, and then promised to not load the guns. Even I knew the guns would be loaded. I wish people remembered we ended the Vietnam War. All we're remembered for is bank robbing. We were young, painfully short of common sense, idealistic, and a few of us were psychotic.
So many of you ended up well educated and living well in capitalist society. I've long thought there ought to be a statue of a protester in Chicago or Berkeley or DC, right alongside a war memorial. All different angles of the same story, American growing pains.
A skinny kid, long hair, smoking a joint.
Hold to the wind his draft card, burning.
What about women's liberation? It wasn't all about Vietnam, you know.
You're right. Then there was the rise of black liberation.
It was the 60s. Hasn't been a decade quite like it since. The years of our age.
Not to sound too self-centered, but whatever happens to me, I'm going to miss this lovely jail and you folks. I wish we'd met sooner.
And the scene. Single spot Weatherman.
We've all seen enough TV courtroom dramas. We know about overrule, sustain, call the witness. And my trial had some of that. I believe I was William's first client. He got corrected by Judge Cannon, who I was both terrified of and somewhat attracted to. Even though I confessed to being the driver, they brought Joe Moravsky from prison to testify. The prosecutor called Weatherman a terrorist organization and me a terrorist. William objected. Judge Cannon permitted it. That word carries a lot of freight. Finally, I got my turn.
Defense calls Michael Harrington.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please say yes.
Yes.
For the record, please state your name and occupation.
Michael James Harrington, retired helpline supervisor for Fidelity.
In 1976, Mr. Harrington, you were a member of Weatherman.
Yes.
What was the stated purpose of that organization?
We wanted to overthrow the government. We wanted to end the Vietnam War and other wars of imperialism.
Objection, Your Honor. We don't need a history lesson today.
Sustained. Get to it.
What specific activities did you take part in Weatherman?
Demonstrations at college campuses, too numerous to list, and at the Democratic National Convention in 1930. I also destroyed draft files in 4 cities, including Pittsfield.
Your Honor, all of this is old news. Where is he going?
Sustained. Let's cover fresh ground, Counselor.
You were charged with conspiracy to commit murder in the Massachusetts dime bank robbery in Pittsfield in 1974. How do you plead?
Not guilty. I know what I did and what I didn't. I've spent the last 40 years hiding, so I've thought a lot about it. That's about all I've done. Almost got married once, but I couldn't subject her to a life on the run. She still doesn't know what happened to me. I've nothing but remorse. I'm deeply sorry a human being died during that robbery. All I want now is to see my mother and niece again and be of some use to them, to pay them back for 40 years.
Well, that's almost an admission of guilt, Mr. Harrington. Defense, are you finished with this witness?
Not yet. During the robbery, did you carry or fire a gun?
No, I was the driver. I was never inside the bank.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Okay. The witness can stand down. I have a feeling this trial may end up in a textbook and very likely on some websites.
I think we've
I
jumped a little
wanted
too
this
much
to be
here.
a quick trial. I think I have an old version.
Okay, pick it up wherever.
Can I continue?
By all means.
I have a feeling this trial may end up in a textbook, very likely on some websites. I wanted this to be a quick trial. It covers no new ground, and I have an idea how to make it so. But it's going to be, how you say, controversial. Mr. Harrington, if your defense agrees, I'm going to change your plea from not guilty to nolo contendere.
Nolo contendere. Agreed, Your Honor.
Prosecution objects for the record.
So noted and expected. Since Mr. Harrington has changed his plea to nolo contendere, I'm going to find him guilty on both charges. And anticipating the prosecution's objection, I would like to move forward to the sentencing phase. Objections? Really?
Your Honor, respectfully, if any part of this proceeding survives a review, I have no issue with sentencing.
We're finished. You may feel more charitable. As part of the sentencing, I am permitting a victim impact statement from Miss Angela Koenig.
Could you tell in court your name, address, and occupation?
Angela Maria Koenig. I live at 19 Westminster Road in Adams. I'm a nurse practitioner in Dr. Fried's medical practice on Main Street in Pittsfield.
Miss Koenig, is your father alive?
No, Your Honor. He was killed when I was 4. He was a bank guard at Massachusetts Dime Bank, killed May 3rd, 1974, during a robbery by the Weather Underground.
Miss Koenig, my sympathies. Are you familiar with the victim impact statement? Would you like to address Mr. Harrington, whom I've just found guilty of conspiracy to murder in your father's death?
I would. Mr. Harrington, I'm surprised to see you in court. After 42 years, I assumed you would never be held responsible for your deeds. So this is a welcome surprise. My father was a bank guard at that bank for 7 years. I was 4 when you killed him. I remember him a little, but not well. I thought about a moment like this for a long time. You're a coward. Your gang were cowards. Instead of accepting your responsibility in this great country and possibly serving in the army, you became thieves and anarchists. You carried guns and you took life, and you came close to destroying this country. I know the man who actually killed my father is serving a life sentence, which helps a little. You were the driver. You were part of the plan. What you've done can't be undone. I hope you are sentenced to a long time in prison. Thank you, Your Honor. I'm done.
Thank you, Miss Koenig. Now for the hard part. Mr. Harrington, part of me wants to sentence you to death, and part of me wants to pardon you. Neither sentence would be appropriate to the crime.
End of scene.
When Angela Koenig spoke to me, I truly felt like dirt. I had conveniently overlooked the fact that Koenig had a child. And when she spoke, honestly, it was the first time I really felt guilty of murder. And then I wanted to be sent to the darkest, worst prison there is, wherever that is. And then this happened.
Like that one down there.
I would have bet anything I'd never be sitting here with you guys. This is a great country.
Why do you think the judge changed your plea to nolo contendere?
Sentencing guidelines. There are minimum sentences with many crimes, and if you plead guilty, the judge has to abide by the minimum. For you, that would have been at least 10 years in a medium security prison. Nolo contendere, no guidelines.
Well, counselor, you won your first case.
I feel more like the judge handed it to me.
I'm sending that woman a fruit basket.
Ready to order.
What's the soup of the day?
Freedom chili.
Freedom chili?
Yes, freedom chili. You should know that not everyone in town agreed with your sentence. Getting off with time served? The chili, incidentally, might burn your tongue off. The boss got carried away with the jalapeno.
Anyone order it?
Oh, we're almost out of it. People like spicy food, and suddenly people are liking freedom food, as in freedom fries, which are back on the menu.
Okay, I'll take the Caesar salad with chicken.
Freedom fries?
Sure.
I never forget an order.
Hello, Mr. Harrington.
Hello, Ms. Koenig. Thanks for coming. We're just having some lunch. Would you join us?
I'm on my lunch break. I've already eaten. I wanted to tell you first that I'm not happy with your sentence. I think you still deserve real jail time. The district attorney has promised me an appeal, so be forewarned. You may still end up in real prison.
I understand.
Here are your drinks. Hi, honey. Can I get you something?
Just some coffee, please.
Be right back.
Well, Judge Cannon did sentence Mike to 20 hours per week of community service for 10 years, and the judge requested your recommendations on how it's served. What sort of service do you have in mind? Talking to school kids? Digging ditches?
Most folks around here think you ought to spend the next 10 winters standing in your underwear, saluting the flag at the town hall. Just saying.
Well, I'm in your hands, Ms. Koenig. What's my sentence?
I want this to mean something to my father. He was very patriotic. I asked some friends for ideas, and this is what I've decided. First, you will help mow the lawn at the Agawam Military Cemetery as needed. I've already contacted them, and they're grateful for the help. Bring water. Second, the VFW sponsors a Little League team, and you will help them fundraise. You will attend their games and lead the crowd in the Pledge of Allegiance. I will permit you to leave after the fourth inning if they're losing. Third, Pittsfield's vets annually distribute flags to homes on the 4th of July. My father did that for years. You will assist them. And for the winter time, when the grass doesn't grow and there's no baseball, you will volunteer at the VA to do anything they ask. They all know about your background, so don't expect much sympathy. Any questions?
Very creative. And all of it better than time behind bars. I have to admit that I need to brush up on the Pledge of Allegiance. I couldn't speak to you in court, but I'm deeply sorry about your father's death.
Thank you for that. As for my father's death, you were the last part, and now you've been judged. Now I try to let this go. Goodbye.
Their little league team is pretty good. They went to state finals.
Get you anything?
Sure, coffee.
Shame we can't recycle this. Be right back.
What's up, Jim? Just missed Angela Koenig. I've got years of mowing lawn, pledging allegiance, and emptying bedpans to look forward to.
Still a better deal than the one you deserve.
Officer Owens, I remember you were with the police. You remember me?
I sure do, Aristotle Wilson. You're the biggest pot supplier in the county.
Oh, I think we're bigger than that. What's up?
Oh, that's good. I've been sleeping badly ever since your trial. I can't believe Cannon let you off. She better retire before the next election, I can tell you that. After trying to overthrow the government like you did, getting off with 2 weeks in our little jail? Nonsense.
I think the 40 years on the run was part of it. It was a very different time. The war.
Don't you try to tell me anything about the war, honey. I was in it. More than I can say for the other men at this table, including you two old hippies and your marijuana company. I answered my country's call and I got shrapnel on my left leg. Communist shrapnel. I used to love the march and the 4th of July parade, but these days I just can't walk for 2 miles anymore. My leg starts throbbing and I have to sit down. I should make you carry me in the parade.
Jim, I remember May 72, I think, when you got out of Nam. You had to pass protesters at Logan Airport when you landed. They called you baby killer. You got a job on the police force, and they printed congratulations in the paper, but no parades, no constant thank you for your service. Not like the kids today. I get it. You're jealous, you're bitter. I would be too. So if you would tell me something, I expect you've seen some of the war movies about Nam. They almost all depict this situation as insane. Is that what you experienced?
There's some truth to what those movies showed. It was a mess from the first minute I stepped off the plane. But Vietnam wasn't the first war to roll on square wheels. From what I read, what some of the older vets from World War II, Korea talk about, all wars have their catch-22 to some degree. But even so, it wasn't my duty to question orders. It was to follow them.
Didn't you ever once think while you were over there that you wished you'd avoided the draft? When something is wrong, good men must adjust it.
And there's always a bit of scripture or words from a wise man that seem to support whatever you feel. It's bullshit. Your country calls and you answer. Or your country calls and you hide. And someone has to go in your place. Ever think of whoever went in your place?
You want me to be responsible for everything that happened to you in Vietnam? Because if I'd gone, maybe you wouldn't have been wounded. I'm guilty of what I'm guilty of. I'm not responsible for every Purple Heart or Gold Star mother.
I ought to slug you.
If you want to slug me, go ahead, get it over with. I won't even defend myself.
Wow. You developed some courage while you've been hiding. Sit down. This isn't high school anymore. But I tell you what, I know all the vets in town. We stick together. I'm going to make sure your next 10 years feel like 100.
Hello, Chief Owens.
Judge, how'd you know we were here?
You drive a van with a marijuana leaf on the door. It's highly visible.
Judge, I don't know what you heard, but...
I heard it all, I think. You are entitled to campaign against my re-election, Jim. This wasn't my most popular decision. Mr. Harrington, court procedure, as I interpret it, prevented me from speaking my own mind at your trial. The verdict is under appeal anyway. I believed withholding my opinion gives your sentence a fighting chance. I'm not in court right now, and I would also like to make a victim impact statement. Could I ask, what was your draft lottery number?
7.
My brother's was 29. You evaded induction?
I did.
Well, my brother didn't. My father served, so he was raised in that tradition. He didn't enlist, but he reported when he got his letter in November of '67, and then he was assigned to infantry. And he got sent to Vietnam just in time for the Tet Offensive. He wrote me a few letters, even recorded a long message on cassette tape. I still have it. I think from what I heard, what I read, that the war was changing him. It couldn't help but change him. I suspect he saw a darker side of life in that war. I would have loved to sit him down at the kitchen table and ask him what happened, discover what had changed him. But he was killed by a mine on his 72nd day in country, so I never got that chance.
Very sorry, Judge.
Very sorry.
So today I'm thinking, yes, I'm thinking that maybe if you'd served, maybe you would have died and my brother would have lived, and maybe Jim wouldn't have shrapnel in his leg. That's logically absurd, but I think of such things. Or maybe I wish he'd been more politically alert, questioned things more. and might have considered avoiding the war. I honestly don't know what I'd have done if he burned his draft card. Probably help him pack his bags for Canada.
I remember your father, Judge. He was an officer of the VFW, a real patriot. Do you really think if David run to Canada, he'd have just forgiven him?
I do, Jim. You're right about my father, as far as what the public saw. And in private, he was supportive of the war. Until David told him and wrote him about what he'd seen. And that's when my father stopped believing what he was hearing on the TV. He said, "They have no idea how to win." And then David died in combat. My father couldn't even say Vietnam after that. They'd squandered his life.
You can't tell me your father gave up in the military that easy. He knew the difference between a battle and a war. And he knew what we were fighting for.
Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. It looks different when your son dies.
Pardon me, Judge. My father fought there. Marines from 68 to 69. He was wounded twice. He lives in Florida now. He needs a wheelchair to get around from his wounds. I was talking to him the other night, and I brought up this trial and how you let him walk. I never heard my father cuss so much. He won't watch anything if Hanoi Jane is in it, and I told him he liked Grace and Frankie. In his mind, you protesters and draft dodgers undermined the home front and ruined support for the war. You and your friends are why we lost the war, in my daddy's opinion.
Wars of occupation always fail. We just told it like it was.
Dear God, it sounds like it's 1968 again. Whatever helps a coward sleep at night, I guess.
Get anything for anyone else? I can't tell you not to come in here again. That's against the law. But I don't want to wait on you if I can help it ever again.
Owens isn't as popular as he thinks. You may get a little verbal abuse at the VA, but most people can't hate forever. That takes energy.
Maybe one day we'll have that monument to the anti-war movement down on the lawn in front of City Hall, alongside the stone tablets for the war dead. A skinny kid with long hair holding up a selective service card, with a little smoke rolling up. Would that be something?
Would. Judge, can I ask you a question?
Certainly. I just hope I can answer it.
You said your brother did not enlist, though your family has a tradition of serving. Why didn't he enlist?
Well, he was starting to listen. He went to a protest in Albany. I think there were a lot of hippies, and he didn't care for their long hair or their panhandling. But he listened to the speakers. I used to have a handbill he'd kept that listed those who spoke. I tried to find it this morning and I couldn't. He was there all day, came home late, and when he came back, he was unhappy. So no, he didn't enlist. He waited to see if the draft would catch up with him, and it did.
Thank you. I have to run. It's visiting hours at Elderwood. It's been 6 months since my trial. The verdict was overthrown as too lenient, and I did spend 3 months in prison, minimum security. It wasn't pleasant, but I learned a few things, and now I'm out. I'm doing the community service Edwina Koenig asked me because it feels right. I've never watched so much baseball. I was out in time to visit my mother before she died. I now live near my niece and her husband, and it's nice to have family. I've missed it. Somewhat ironically, I've come to think of Vietnam as our last virtuous war. Vietnam had no oil, no precious minerals. It wasn't strategically located. There was nothing of material or military value there. We convinced ourselves we had to save the battered little country from communism, kind of like Afghanistan. There's a joke that President H.W. Bush once said, the lesson of Vietnam was to stay out of Vietnam. He didn't say actually that, but that may be the best we can do.
And we're finished.